Hey everyone, Chang here and welcome to my channel. Every now and then I love those kind of, for lack of a better term, sort of math magic. Basically, there are certain results that people in the past or enthusiasts have found. Rules that make our calculation, job, life a lot easier. So, like the divisibility rule, especially the one with the 3 and 9, someone out there before figured out that if you add all the digits together and then that sum is divisible by 9 or by 3, then the original number is divisible by 3. So I'm talking about stuff like that. Now today I'm talking about a specific calculation, and this involves squaring numbers. Now when we hear squaring numbers, to be able to do something very quickly, unless it's a small number, is actually pretty daunting. So for example, 5 squared is easy, right? If you didn't memorize it, at least you can immediately know that 5 times 5 is 25. But as the number gets a lot larger, let's just say, for example, 85 squared, all of a sudden, kind of difficult. But there is a special set of rules, and I'm going to go over it today just so that it's in your arsenal. If you want to impress anyone with it, the fact that you can do math calculations super quickly, go for it. So, 85 squared basically is going to be 7,225, and just like that, a few seconds you can calculate something drastically large, right? So how did I do it? Well, actually, there's a special rule for these kind of squaring numbers. The required condition is basically that it has to end in a 5, right? If it doesn't end in a 5, then this rule doesn't work. So here's the steps. The first one, whatever number you're about to square, right, you remove the 5. Remove the 5, okay? So, for example, like this one right here, how I was able to do it so quickly, I first remove the 5 and what I have is 8, right? The second is whatever number's left over, you want to multiply it by the number plus 1, okay? So in this case, what's left over here is 8. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have 8 multiplied by the number plus 1. The number plus 1, 8 plus 1 is 9. So 8 times 9 is 72. So that's what we have. Then afterwards, whatever you have as the end result, right? Add, I wouldn't say add, I want to say put 25 at the end. Okay, that's the 3 simple steps to squaring any number that ends in 5 pretty darn quickly. So let's look at this example and how I was able to immediately know that it's 7,225. I removed the 5. Okay, so I'm just looking at 8 now. The number left over multiplied by number plus 1. So 8 times 8 plus 1, which is 9, right? That's the result, 72. Now we're going to add, or technically put, right? So we have 72. Then we're going to put 25 at the end. And the reason I want to say add, and I'm a little worried about it, is because technically you are putting it there, you're adding it there, but I don't want you to end up having, 72 plus 25 and coming up with some weird, bizarre number, right? That's how you would figure this out. So let's go over 3 different, I guess you could say, square that ends in 5 and see how quickly we can solve them. All right, very quickly, we have 3 problems right here. The first one is fairly simple. We have 15 squared. If you know 15 squared, great. If not, remember the rule. Get rid of the 5 first, so we're removing it. We look at this number and we multiply by the number plus 1. So technically we have 1 times 2, which is equal to 2, right? And afterwards, put or add 25 at the end of it. So technically it's going to be 2, 2, 5. That will be the answer for the first one. Very simple, right? Second one looks a little scary. 75 squared, not that bad, right? We look at, well, first get rid of 5. Look at this number. We have 7. Then we have to multiply it by basically the number plus 1, which is 8. There it is, right? 7 times 8, 56. And just like that, put the 25 at the end of it, 5625. Boom, just like that, right? Let's look at the last one. That looks even scarier. Same thing though. Get rid of 5, what do we have? We have 12. Okay, then we do 12 times 13. What is that? Well, hopefully you guys know, if not, 12 times 12 is 144. Then you plus another 12 is going to be 156. So you're going to have 156. Now, what we're going to do is, once again, the rule does not change. 156, and you put 0.25. And that's a really big number, but look at how quickly we were able to just calculate that with this simple trick. So the idea that why it works is based on this. Any number can be broken down into the hundreds, tens, ones, so on and so forth. So for example, one of the example I gave was 15 squared. You can actually rewrite the number, if you think about it, it's just as 10 plus 5 when we're looking at 15, ignoring the square, right? Same thing, 75, we can rewrite it as something like this. 7 times 10, just breaking down, focusing on the 10s and 5s, right? 75 times 10, and 10 is right here, and then it's going to be plus 5. That gives us 75, right? And then even like the large one that we went over, 125. 12 times 10, let's make sure it's legible, right? Plus 5. There it is. Okay, so any number that ends in 5, right? That's why this rule needs number that only ends in 5. Can be broken down into basically some number times 10 plus 5. So we're going to generalize it. Basically, all of these numbers that we're focusing on is going to be 10x times some number, right? Plus 5. Now, when you square it, basically, we're distributing it, right? 10x plus 5 times 10x plus 5. And if you want to do distribution, like, you know, this multiply that, then that, then that, then that. If you're comfortable with that, what do we get? We get basically 100x squared plus, and this is going to be 10x times 5, which is 50x, and then another one, so that's technically 100x, right, plus 25. Okay, now notice this. We basically have 100x times x plus 1 plus 25, right? So I factored out 100 and x only on these two terms right here. That's why we have 100x times, and what's left over, x, since I factor out this whole thing, is going to be plus 1. We have plus 25 at the end. Now, here's the thing. Let's make it even more obvious. 100 times x plus 1, right? Plus 25. Now here's the key. Notice that this result right here is always going to be times 100. That means the last two digits is never going to be affected. No matter what this is, once you multiply by 100, technically there's 20 at the end, right? So you don't have to worry about it. But here it is. You have your x, which was originally what you multiplied the 10 by, right? So notice this. That's why we take away the 5. We don't care about it. We only look at what was left over because that's technically your 10s, right? This one, it would have been 1. This one would have been 7. This one would have been 12. There it is, right? So that times the number itself plus 1. And since it's going to be multiplying by 100, you have technically 20 at the end. What you do in the end is you add 25, right? This is the last thing right here. That's why no matter what, we always say, well, after you do the whole, you know, take away that number, then you get that number multiplied by plus 1. In the end, you put or you add 25 because the 20 at the end, because technically you're multiplying by 100, right? You'll fill that in with the 25. And it's simple as that. Even though it looks complicated, it's really not, right? We just got a generalized form of the special type of number that we want, usually any number that ends in 5 and we're trying to square it, right? So all these, technically you want to square it, right? And then if we square it, we see that this happens to be a result. So if we can memorize this section, this is the key, right? We immediately know we can do a lot of these very, very quickly. So hopefully this makes a little more sense. All right, we truly reached the end of this video, and you know, another arsenal for your little math magic trick, right? It's pretty impressive, and you can definitely stump a lot of teachers when you're like, oh, I can do a lot of very quick squaring of numbers, and it happens to be this. And of course, there are other rules too, and I will definitely go over some in the future video just for kicks. But then, guess what? A lot of people who are super, I guess you could say fast, super great at math, yes, some of them are just, you know, almost like computers. The other ones, each and every one of special situation, they have a little trick or a little formula or something that they memorize. This one could be one for you. Have a little fun, you know. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.